Normally, I don't say how long after a game I'm recording a video. I feel like it's not necessary. This game is different. This game is different. I am recording this the day after our 4-3 loss to New York. Because if I recorded it the day of, if I recorded this within even the first half of the day after, the video would be filled with too many curse words and probably wouldn't be allowed on YouTube. That is how bad this is. This is far and away. I don't want to say it was the worst game of the season. I do think it might have been that. There was a game against Montreal that was pretty bad. But far and away the worst period. Far and away we had the worst period of not even close. Not even close. So what is up, everyone? It is your local Ottawa fan for hopefully not my second last time this season, but I mean, it's sure looking that way. It is sure looking that way. I get it. Any given night, any given team, anything can happen in this league. For all I know, we might go into Toronto and just mollywop them, and oh well, it's all alarmist. But right now, if I'm being honest, I'm a Montreal fan. I'm just hoping and praying that Montreal just does a number to Boston, and then the result in Toronto just becomes irrelevant. It just doesn't matter. Because how do you trust this? We had the worst team in the league. The only team that is out of the playoffs, like guaranteed, mathematically out of the playoffs. I think they have, 3 home wins? 3 all season. Thoroughly make a mockery of us in less than 10 minutes. That's all it took. And I talked a little bit about, we can't revert back to the early season. And this is something that I mentioned way early. That if you take just 5 or 10 minutes off, that's enough. We literally had this lesson taught to us by New York. We had a 3-0 lead in the third period against New York earlier in the season. Earlier in the season, we were up 3-0 against New York, and in 3 minutes, that just disappeared, and they beat us in overtime. Late in the game, there was under 5 minutes to go, and then New York gets 1, New York gets 2, New York gets 3, and they win in overtime. 4-3. Wow, what a score. We were the better team to the first period. The first period was a thorough dismantling of New York. Shots were 17-7. We outshot them by 10. Look, 7 shots isn't that bad for a period. 17, and you know what? I was satisfied with 2. Akane Shiga, where we get an odd rush, get it to Akane Shiga, goal 1-0 Ottawa. Haley Skamura, 1 shot, blocked, another shot wide. Gets the puck right back on our 3rd shot, Haley Skamura, 2-0. It was a good first, and New York had basically nothing. Even in the first period, of their 7 shots, I would say maybe 3 or 4 were actually decent chances. We hemmed them completely. We forced them to play our game. We had the puck for a majority of the first period. Okay, if you play like that for the rest of the game, you will clinch the playoffs. The playoffs. If we won this game in regulation, we would have made the playoffs. And instead, it's going to go to the final weekend. Instead, we have to bring it to the very last moment where we're going to have to watch the Boston game. Because we now need to match what Boston does. Whatever Boston does against Montreal, we need to do that against Toronto. The only way that we don't have to worry about the Toronto game is if Montreal beats Boston in regulation. That's it. Any other result. And we gotta match that. We're now going into the final game tied with points in Boston. Even an overtime loss would have at least given us some breathing room. It would have just given us some room for error. I was more than willing to forgive the Montreal game. Montreal played really well. They're a really good team. Desbiens was lights out. And we kept it close against a good team. And in the third period, we showed up. Our second period, an Ottawa hockey team that has bad second periods. Where have I heard that before? But I was able to forgive that because, okay, we let in one in the second period. We kind of scored, got called off, but it was okay. By the way, we could have challenged one of New York's goals. I don't think it would have gotten called off. But show some fight. Challenge it, at least. A great first period. We completely control the game in the first period. We're up 2-0. Second period. Well, New York's playing better. I wouldn't necessarily say that at the start of the second period they were completely outplaying us. But they were playing better. They were playing their game. And we weren't necessarily waking up. And they get one. Okay. Whatever. It's still 2-1. And then less than 2 minutes later, they get another. And this is where I'm sorry, I'm going to start questioning a lot of things. And I shouldn't be alarmist, but I'm going to be alarmist. Because we shouldn't be in this situation. How do we do nothing? Because after the second goal, just the same thing. And then a third goal. And then the same thing. And then a fourth goal. It felt like we never woke up. And when they made it 3-2, I'm sorry, you need to call a timeout. You need to calm the game down. You need to calm the players down. You need to mentally get back in it. It felt like once New York scored, it's just like we were gone. We just forgot how to play hockey. We just let them walk all over us. Some of the goals, I'm going to be honest, they were below Maschmeyer. We got to have a save there. It's not your night. Okay. I mean, Maschmeyer's good in the third. And good in the first. But like I said, she didn't face much. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Abstrader's a really good goalie. And if Maschmeyer's maybe letting in 2 or 3 quick ones, you let in 3 quick ones, I don't know. Maybe it's time to get a change of scenery. Not because, we don't like Maschmeyer. She's Emmerich she's Emmerich Maschmeyer. She's one of the greatest goalies, if not the greatest goalie in the league. That does not mean that she's perfect. Okay, when you let in 3 quick goals against the worst team in the league to turn a 2-0 lead into a 3-2 deficit, I don't know, take a timeout, maybe change the goaltender, do something, shake something up. No, we just throw the game away. And then the third period, I have notes. I don't think I need it because what more is there to say? In 8 minutes, we blew potentially the season. We blew what would have been a guarantee playoff spot. This is New York. When Boston needed to stay alive. They needed to beat New York to stay alive. Remember like a week or 2 ago? New York beats Boston. That's over. Lexi Aggia is the one who got the game-winning goal, by the way. If New York wins that game, things are way more dire in Boston. Way more dire. If New York wins that in regulation, we've made the playoffs. But even if they win it in overtime, even if the game goes to overtime and New York wins, Boston's down 2 points against us. Then we're just at get a point territory. We are in a completely different situation. They got things done against the worst team in the league. When Montreal had a chance to clinch the playoffs against New York, they got it done. Now, Minnesota, if they don't beat Toronto, they're going to face New York with a chance to clinch the playoffs. And I think that Minnesota is going to get it done. Even Toronto just had a game against them where beating New York puts them in prime position to clinch first. It didn't clinch them first, but it put them one win away. And what happened? They bullied New York. Bullied them. It was 6-2. At one point it was 6-0 in the third period. So the 6-2 score doesn't really give you the full picture of how bad of a beatdown it was. And when it's our turn to go and bully the worst team in the league so that we can make the playoffs, clinch a playoff spot, we lay an egg. 4 goals in it. Like, that's all. That's all you need. 4 goals, 8 minutes. And in the third period, we didn't show the fight that we needed to. I felt like we were slow and sloppy for at least the first half of the third. I didn't think we had a really, really good opportunity. High pressure, good chance where we were actually threatening New York until maybe 7-ish minutes left. We got an odd rush. New York gets a penalty. We got a penalty too. It gets to 4-on-4. Mind you, the 4-on-4 was good. The 4-on-4 in the third period was good, but it was too little too late. We pull the goalie, and what do? Oh, Daryl Watts. Thank you for being Daryl Watts. There were bright spots, obviously, this game. She makes it 4-3. Twists the knife a little bit, actually. I actually would have preferred if we just lost 4-2. But no, we have to show that little ounce of fight when the game's all but lost. So with just under a minute left, it's a 1-goal game. And then we immediately get a penalty, by the way. And now we face the best team in the league, Toronto. The good news is either Toronto beats Minnesota and clinches first place, and that hopefully means that they do not play their starters against us. But at the same time, I mean, we just lost to New York by letting in 4 goals in 8 minutes. Does it really matter? Does it really matter? I remembered thinking to myself in the first period, like when the first period was over, I thought, this looks like a playoff team playing a team that does not belong. We looked like a playoff team, and New York didn't. And then after the second period, I was like, we don't look like a playoff team. This looks like a game between the two teams that just missed the postseason entirely. That's how bad it was, how sloppy it was. And I don't get it, because they were so hungry. Like, they were the exact team we wanted to see in the first period. And it just felt like no adjustments were made, that nothing was done. And we have been a team that's been bad with quick goals. So you would maybe think that when New York is starting to do something, and I'm maybe more a crazy person when it comes to timeouts, but I think that you shouldn't just save your timeouts for overtime or for the last minute of the third period. If the other team is just steamrolling you, getting all the momentum like an avalanche, if they get 3 goals in under 5 minutes, call a timeout. Cool things down. Take a minute to take a breath, gather yourselves, gather your thoughts, and say, okay, we're still in this game. Make a decision. Ask your goaltender, are you good? Are you good to go out? Like, no offense. It's okay if you say, you know what, I'm just not feeling it tonight. I'm just off my game. Because I'll say, she was. In the second period, Maschmeyer was off her game. It happens. It does happen. We can't expect Maschmeyer to be posting a shutout every single game. We can't be expecting 900 save percentage every single game. Goaltenders, even the best goaltenders in the league, in any league, will have off nights. Ask Habs fans. Look at what happened with Patrick Roy. Arguably the greatest goaltender to ever play the sport. He has one bad night and they never pull him, and that's why he leaves Montreal. It's okay to say, Maschmeyer, you let in 3 quick ones. Is it your night? I don't know. And the fact that she started the third, again, she had a good third period. She didn't let anything in the first or the third period. But that shows a lack of willingness to change, willingness to try something new. It's 4-2. We went into the second period up 2-0. We came out of it down 4-2. When you go into a period up by two, worst case scenario should be coming down, tied, down by one maybe. You went into the second period up by 2 and came up down by 2. You need to have an all-time terrible period. And that's what happened. And it felt like we did nothing to change that. Like we just rolled over and let New York eat up the third period and just watch the clock wind to zeros. Now, this team has done this to me before. They put me on a roller coaster of emotions before. So who knows? Maybe we are just going to absolutely bully Toronto. And like I said, either Toronto wins against Minnesota and hopefully rests their starters and is not really trying all that hard. And if they lose to Minnesota, then hopefully that means that Montreal, knowing what's on the line and what's at stake, really brings it to Boston and just bullies Boston and handily wins. But who here thinks we would win a series? After that game, I'm not sure. After that game, I'm not sure that we'd win a game in the playoffs. That's how bad it was. And I've said this so many times this season. What hurts me the most, what upsets me the most, is that I know we're better than this. I know it. Everyone knows that we are a team that is more than capable of taking care of business against New York. We're a team capable of taking care of business against Toronto. We are. Some nights we look like the team to beat. There are some nights where after the game I think, we could do this. We could win the Walter Cup this year. We could actually go all the way. And then other nights we have this. We have a game where you're left saying, I just hope we can win a game. I just hope that we don't get embarrassed. I just hope we even make the playoffs, let alone do anything in them. And again, we're now doing what we've done so many times this season. We were in the driver's seat. We were the masters of our own destiny, and would you look at that? It slipped away from us again, and again we need to rely on the results of another game. Why can't we just get business done ourselves? Montreal, fine. We got stonewalled. Desbiens was great. New York? 4 goals in a period, in less than half of a period. 4 goals. Especially considering that we did get that last minute goal. You take a timeout, you do something, you change something, and make it even just a 3-goal period. Just stop the bleeding a little bit. We at least get a point. We at least can force overtime and get a point. And if I'm being honest, I actually think we would have won if it went to overtime. I think that if New York got 3 quick goals in the second period, and then we get a last-minute, life-saving, potentially season-saving goal, then we are the team that goes into the third with momentum, who scored a last-minute goal thanks to Darryl Watson, and it changes the story. But we did nothing to change anything. We did nothing but watch as New York just steamrolled us. This is the most upset I've been. The most upset I've been after a game. This is the most disappointing game of the season. If we won this game, we would have made the playoffs, and now we got to trust the results of a different game. Now we've got to watch. Now we've got to watch another game to know what we need to do. Because we're no longer the masters of our own fate. We yet again need to rely on a different game. We need to watch Montreal-Boston. And if Montreal doesn't win in regulation, And then we're going to have to get some points. Potentially all three. We might need a regulation win. This is the worst point in the season for the wheels to fall off. And this is a team that's capable of so much more. I don't know what else there is to say. Go Montreal, go on Saturday. Please, please, Montreal. I'll never ask for anything from you again. Just please beat Boston in regulation. Because I don't know if I can trust us after this. And again, I've been proven wrong before. Maybe they'll come out of nowhere and just shock the hockey world and just completely obliterate Toronto. But yet again, we're in the driver's seat and we let it slip away. Now we got to watch another game. Now we got to watch Montreal-Boston to know what we need to do. Yeah, an opportunity to just control our own fate, and we let it slip through the cracks again. So I'll be watching in anticipation and with bated breath the final weekend of the PWHL season, because nothing is guaranteed. And as always, even when it's real hard sometimes, as always, go Ottawa, go.